Hello and welcome back to Disused Railway Diaries. I'm Colin The Head and this is Disused Railway Diaries. And in this episode what we're going to do, we're going to explore two spurs which spurred off at Wrangbrook Junction in Upton. So Hull and Barnsley came from Hull. It went through Barnsdale Tunnel at Upton, right, which is known locally as Tunnies. And then what it spilled out into Wrangbrook Junction. And at this point it split into three lines. Obviously the main line carried on to Barnsley. It carried on to Barnsley, it terminated at Barnsley, and then there were two spurs that come off. Now, the two spurs, one were called the Wath Spur, and one were called the Sprotborough Spur. This little documentary that we're going to do, we're going to explore these two spurs that set off from Wrangbrook Junction near Upton. So basically, the Hull and Barnsley line, what were it mainly used for? The transportation of coal. Right, it was the transportation of coal, and the Hull and Barnsley served most of the local collieries around here. It served Upton Colliery, Frickley Colliery, Ickleton Colliery, Pickburn Colliery, Cuddiff Colliery, Emsworth Colliery, South Kirby Colliery, Dennerby Colliery, Dennerby Main, Fernsker Colliery, and obviously what it was with the Hull and Barnsley, it terminated at Hull Alexander Docks. So all the coal from this local coalfield went along the Hull and Barnsley. It actually got exported to other countries at Hull Alexander Docks. So basically the Hull and Barnsley were mainly a coal railway. What we're going to do, we're going to focus on these two branch lines, the Wath Spur and the Sprotborough Spur. Right, so we've come to Upton, right? So behind me here, Hull and Barnsley used to come out at Barnsdale Tunnel and used to come in this direction behind me where I'm pointing. So obviously we've got cutting there that belongs to Barnsdale Tunnel in that direction. So where we're standing here, this used to be a bridge. Obviously it's been backfilled now, but there's nothing here. And in this direction here, this is where it all used to happen. This is where the Hull and Barnsley became three lines, right? So it turned from being a double track line and there were two spurs that spurred off in that direction. This is Wrangbrook. We're at Wrangbrook here in Upton, West Yorkshire, and the line used to split into three. Now these two spurs were introduced to the Hull and Barnsley in 1902. They were opened in 1902 and they're shut in 1959. So let's take a look at what's left today. Let's just have a look. Let's just get up here. Obviously this used to be a bridge wall where this pile of bricks is here, right? There used to be a bridge here, right? And a cutting, and a vast deep cutting that used to carry on from Barnsdale Tunnel. There used to be a signal box here, in this direction. There used to be a signal box here to control Wrangbrook Junction. And obviously, if we look to our west, obviously the line diverged and it split into three. So this is Wrangbrook Junction, everybody, and what's left of Wrangbrook Junction. There's not much left to see now, obviously, but this was like a busy point in the actual railway. It was like a massive big junction, and it was just here at Wrangbrook. And today you're just looking as if there's not even left. You know what I mean? It's mad really to think about it, but as if it's just been like backfilled and stuff, and you couldn't. Nobody'd even know if it wasn't for Tunnies being there. You'd have never even known that Wrangbrook Junction were even here. So we're just at Doncaster's, right, in Upton, Wrangbrook actually. Everybody at Upton just calls it Dunks, right? And when I was a kid, right, I used to spend a lot of time down on Dunks, right? And this gate here, right, there used to be a pathway, and you could go down on your bike and stuff. And now look, it's just overgrown. People don't go on Dunks no more. Why don't people go down Dunks anymore? I used to go down here on my bike. I mean, they've even put a gate here and lot, pathway, and it's just overgrown. Don't people go down Dunks no more? You know what I mean? Is there any paths left on Dunks? You know what I mean? So we're not just checking out disused railway infrastructure here. We're like looking at how people are actually behaving. People don't walk anymore. People don't even go out for a walk anymore. It's mad. It's crazy. I'm Colin The Head. Right, so we're next at a place called Railway Cottages just outside Upton, and behind me, this area behind me, was Wrangbrook Junction, right? This area here is Wrangbrook Junction. Obviously in the distance we can see that line, the electricity pylons behind me. that's the entrance to Barnsdale Tunnel behind me. So that's the entrance to Barnsdale Tunnel behind me, and obviously the line carried on and it came to Wrangbrook Junction, and at Wrangbrook Junction, like I've already said, it's split into three. Now obviously if you look in this direction over here, that's where the Hull and Barnsley carried on to Barnsley, right, in that direction. So where we're stood now is where the two spurs actually left the actual main line. So all this is backfill. It were all in cuttings. The whole of Wrangbrook Junction sat at a very low point in Upton. Actually the lowest point in Upton geographically was Wrangbrook Junction. You couldn't get any lower. It was the lowest point. So all this is backfill. Obviously all the cuttings have been filled and it's all gone. And obviously it would have gone under this road, and then obviously the Wath Spur went in that direction towards South Elmsall, and then there was the Sprotborough Spur that went in that direction towards Sprotborough and Cottages. So behind me we've got the railway cottages, another resemblance of what's actually left of the railway. People just drive by these railway cottages every day, right, and just think, oh my god, it's like a row of houses. No, they were railway cottages and they were built for the workers that worked on the Hull and Barnsley. And today they're just a tranquil block of terraces. So we've just come to Cherry Tree Farm here on A638, just outside South Elmsall, right? And this wall, to any normal passing by, just think, oh god, there's a brick wall here. But this was an actual bridge at one point, right? And the actual line went underneath the A638 here. If you just want to take a quick glimpse over here, behind me, there's a vast cutting below me. This bridge has actually been backfilled again. You know, this is common practice with disused railway lines nowadays. A lot of the bridges get backfilled. Don't know why, right? They ought to just leave them up so people can explore them. But what they've done with this bridge, it's been backfilled. So yet again, this bridge was decored in the Hull and Barnsley way. This was the decor of the actual line, and most of the infrastructure you will find on the Hull and Barnsley is decored in exactly the same way, even down to the station houses and the actual brick buildings that actually were part of the railway. They're all built in this sort of fashion. Same as Barnsdale Tunnel, if you remember about the Barnsdale Tunnel video we've done, they're all decored like this. You can definitely see that there was a bridge here, and this is what remains today. I mean, it's a shame it's been backfilled. I mean, it's not doing any harm, is it really? But yeah, I mean, if you dug away at that soil, eventually you break into a bridge. There'll be a cavern underneath A638 here, and obviously, you know, you'll be able to get in and stuff. But this is what remains today. Not much to see really. Who would have ever thought it? You know, this is part of the Wath Spur on the Hull and Barnsley. We've got a good shot of Upton there and tunnel. If you look at the actual hillside where them pylons are, right in the distance, that's the tunnel face. We've got Wrangbrook Junction, the railway cottages, and then the line, the Wath Spur, came away from the railway cottages and then came in a straight line. There were also some sidings down there as well at one point. There was a big marshalling yard just in between this bridge and that centre pylon you can see there. There was a big marshalling yard there, and what were mainly marshalled there were coal wagons for Upton Colliery. I'm just going to show you how deep this cutting actually is. I mean, I'm stood in this cavern, right? Obviously, the cameraman stood up on backfill, and it's all been backfilled, and this is where the actual rails used to be on the Wath Spur. It is quite a deep cutting, isn't it, really? Because the actual line itself and the terrain it actually crossed, it were really difficult terrain for it to actually cross. So a lot of it you will find is either on embankments or it's in cuttings, like it is here. So we've just come to what remains and probably one of the biggest pieces of infrastructure on Sprotborough Spur, and obviously it's a bridge. That's all it is. This is the Sprotborough Spur. Now, if you look behind me, we've got Barnsdale Tunnel on the horizon, and this branch line took a big massive swing back on its head from Wrangbrook Junction. Obviously, this is probably only one of the really main pieces of infrastructure that actually exists on this little branch line here. And all it is it's a footbridge. That's all it is. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look and see what's actually left of the actual footbridge here on the actual Sprotborough Spur, just outside Skellbrook. Yeah, again, what we've got two brick walls mainly. This has been put up for safety purposes, so obviously stop people on horses toppling into banking. And yeah, again, what we've got engineering bricks and typical Hull and Barnsley decor. Two bricks, all it is two walls really. To anybody who didn't know it were here, they wouldn't even know there were even a bridge here. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at the actual arches. So obviously we know there's a bridge here, there's summit here, right? We've got two walls. And really to trace the actual line from Wrangbrook Junction, you wouldn't, most of the actual embankments have been collapsed and filled in, and cuttings have been filled in. And to any untrained eye, they wouldn't even know it were actually there. You know, you wouldn't even have thought there were actually a railway that actually come down across these fields here at Skellbrook, because most of the actual infrastructure, I'm sad to say, has gone. You can see behind me, really good example here of backfill. Obviously, yeah, again, what we've got a cutting. Obviously, the line actually sat in a cutting in this hillside. Obviously, went under that bridge, and obviously the cutting's been filled in. So all the fields towards Upton have been filled in. And this is probably the only really real piece of infrastructure that actually exists for this little branch line that actually was the Sprotborough Spur. It doesn't actually see much traffic on this bridge, and I don't think it ever has done in its lifetime, if you want to know the truth. I mean, all it's really got going over it is a little lane. And yeah, but it's still here. Still here. It's been, if you actually look at it as well, another thing about the actual bridge, it's been well, evidential subsidence. The bridge is actually leaning. If you look at the actual bridge, the bridge is actually leaning into the actual hillside. Hence the reason why it's been backfilled. Now the reason why it's been backfilled is to stop the actual bridge falling back into the actual cutting. So if you look at the actual bridge, it's actually leaning into the cutting. And the reason why it's been backfilled is to actually support the archers, the Disused Railway line, and obviously they wanted to reclaim the land behind the actual bridge. So they've just backfilled it. And that's what remains today of this little arch bridge. Obviously this fence has been put up on top of the bridge. The main reason why this fence has been put up on top of the bridge, right, is because the actual walls collapsed over time. It fell into ravine. Cutting, sorry. And this is just to stop horse riders, cyclists. I mean, if you ever had an accident on this bridge, you know, you've got a 50-foot drop there. You know, if you fell off your bike and you'd be a goner, you just top off at bridge and die. So this is why a fence has been put here, to keep people safe while they cross over this disused railway cutting that was the Sprotborough Spur. Quite impressive really, isn't it, for a 127-year-old footbridge. So we've just come to Hampole. We're just at Hampole on this lane here in Hampole, and obviously behind me, right at the top of this field, that's where the actual bridge that we've just been and had a look at actually is. And the line obviously came down this field, and it went from a cutting to an embankment, and it crossed the road here, right? The railway line crossed the road here, and there used to be a bridge here, right? Believe it or believe it not, there used to be a big arch bridge here, and it's gone. They've just demolished it, and this is what's left. I mean, not much left. And obviously the line carried on in that direction, south. The line carried on south and went over the Doncaster Wakefield line. And what we're going to do next, we're going to see if we can see if there's any infrastructure left down near the actual railway line itself. Right, so we've just took a walk down the trackbed, or what's remains of the actual trackbed, and what's happened is they've dismantled embankment. This is not the proper trackbed we're stood on, right? This is dismantled embankment. So if you look behind me, the natural lay of the land is it's on a slope. So all this would have been elevated. It would have all been embankments, right? So obviously the line, it said the line has to be as level as it possibly can. So all this will have been embankment where I'm stood, but a massive embankment leading towards the actual main line where it crosses the actual Leeds Doncaster line, and all this has been dismantled. So this is not the actual real lay of the actual land. And what we're going to do now, and what I'm going to demonstrate to you, is how high it actually was. There's actually a concrete pillar where the actual line actually did cross the main line, which is now the Doncaster Wakefield line, which is still used. And it's in this direction. And you'll be able to see for yourself now how elevated it actually was and what's actually left today. If you can see behind me, the concrete pillar, that was the actual real height of the actual railway line before all this embankment has been dismantled. So all this has been embankment, and as you can see, this is what only remains. So you can see for yourself how elevated were it, and what they've done, they've dismantled all this railway embankment, and that's what all remains. So that is the true level of the actual rails. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to have a look and see what's actually left of this concrete pillar outside of Doncaster Wakefield line. Right, so we stood on top of this, we stood on top of the embankment. This is what remains of bridge. These concrete pillars inside of it, and this is all that exists. Just these two concrete pillars. Obviously, the bridge would have gone over, and they've dismantled it. They took it down. But you can see for yourself how high it actually was, and how elevated this part of the Sprotborough Spur actually was. And this is what remains today. It's just a dismantled. To any normal person, it's just a pair of concrete pillars, but it were actually a main line bridge going over the railway. I find it absolutely amazing. Must have been quite impressive when it were here. You could actually steel support still on top of the pier, so it must have been a metal bridge. Obviously, you can see the metal support, so it must have been a steel bridge that were here at one point. It just goes to show that when they're calling disused railways, they're proper disused, aren't they? There we go, man, come on! I don't mean, was it? Right, so we're just scrambling around this old disused railway banking here in Yorkshire. Hello, we're fine. It's only an insulator. It's an insulator. What these do is, because this line's electrified, and obviously with power electric likes to go through metal, right? It's a known fact, right? So you've got all these metal supports, they're holding high voltage cables. Obviously it's a metal gantry, so if you couple metal to metal, right, and then put a post in floor, then obviously that gantry is going to become electrified at some point. So they need to insulate the actual cables that the metal gantries are actually supporting, and that's these jobs. That's exactly what they are, the pot insulators. And obviously these support the high voltage cables, and what they do is, obviously this piece in the middle, if you look, it's an insulator. This is pot, right? This is the pot insulator, and obviously that'll be connected to part of gantry, and this will be supporting cables. But obviously electric can't go through pot because it's an insulator. So what you find is on all gantries they have these insulators, and basically their job is to stop you getting an electric shock when you touch them supports there. And every gantry on the East Coast Main Line, every piece of electrification equipment will have insulators on them. So that's just a little bit of that electrification and insulators. Right, so what we're going to do now, we've come to Moorhouse, right? We're at Moorhouse and we're back, and we're on the Wath Spur. We're actually physically on the Wath Spur. So what we're going to do now on Disused Railway Diaries, we're going to take you for a drive down Wath Spur. So we're just at Moorhouse station's behind us, and we're going to take a drive down the Wath Spur down towards the actual Doncaster Wakefield line. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick drive down the actual Moorhouse to Doncaster Wakefield section of the actual line. So this is all track bed, this old track bed. None of it's been dismantled, it's all original. I mean, you'd hardly believe it, you know, this is the proper, you know, this branch line we're driving down. So what we're looking at there now, that's the Dyke Bridge. So obviously that's the Wath Spur that goes up towards Upton. And obviously we're on the actual branch line that's going to take us down towards the main line. Like I said, there were still tracks on this trackbed until 1973. That was the bit that closed in 1959. And this bit stayed up until 1973. And it served the Frickley colliery. And the reason why, it was access to the Doncaster Wakefield line. Just the side of Doncaster Wakefield line again, but we're on the Wath Spur. What happened here basically is that where you've just seen us drive, obviously that's where it used to link up with this line. Frickley colliery had access to 3 main lines, obviously the Hull and Barnsley, which we're featuring, but also had access to the Doncaster Wakefield line, which we're stood next to now at the moment, and it also they had access to the Sheffield and York line. Yeah, man. Right, so we're just driving back up Spur from main line, and obviously as you can see out the window, we're starting to peel away from main line steadily, like a big triangle. That's all it is. It's just a big massive triangle with three railway lines that come together. It's like being in Jurassic Park or something. As you can see out the window, right? We've got the Wath Spur from Upton actually diverges at this point. It comes in at this point, right? And as you can see, we're on a railway embankment, and there's obviously another railway embankment over there. I know it just looks like a load of trees, really, like, but I do show you there's another railway embankment there. We've just found, well, we're just at a bridge basically. This is where we're at. We're on a bridge now. If you just look in this focus, pay your attention over here. We've got 2 bridges. Obviously that one's been dismantled behind me. That is the line that goes up to Upton towards Wrangbrook Junction behind me, and obviously it's been dismantled, it's been took down. Like I said, that closed in 1959. That's when that became disused. And obviously we're stood on the actual spur which leads down to the main line. Now this bridge is still intact. This bridge has survived. This bridge hasn't been dismantled, hence the reason why we've drove over it in car. It's mad down here. So we're just obviously this is the dismantled bridge. We'll take a closer look. I mean, the sole purpose of these bridges was to get farm machinery, cattle underneath the actual railway line. And as you can see, there's a stereotypical brickwork at Hull and Barnsley, local engineering brick, capped off with blue brindles, as you can see. Very stereotypical of the Hull and Barnsley decor. It's actually in quite good actual conductive brickwork, isn't it? When you look at it, it's not been damaged or out, and it's in good quality. Obviously, this side of the bridge, this is the older side. This is the older line. This was put here first. So as you can see, it is a little bit more dilapidated. Now the main reason why this spur, one of the reasons why this spur were actually built, right, the Wath Spur, is to serve the ex-Frickley colliery, which is behind me. You see all that spoil there? That's Frickley colliery's spoil heaps, basically. It's what they dug out at mine, and that's all that remains. And today it's a Frickley country park. Right, so we've just come to Moorhouse station. This is the site where we're actually stood now, is actually Moorhouse station. Basically what we're going to do, we're going to explore what's actually left of Moorhouse station. There actually remains of platforms here and stuff. And, all that remains today is obviously bridge has been dismantled again. This bridge has been took down. There used to be a bridge here once upon a time. There, so let's go take a look, see what's left of Moorhouse Station. Right, so we're stood on top of banking now here at Moorhouse Station, and this is what remains of Moorhouse Station. We're actually called Moorhouse and South Elmsall Station originally. It served the village of South Elmsall and also served the village of Moorhouse. It was a simplistic halt, that's all it was. It never really came to much in Moorhouse and South Elmsall Station. It wasn't used by a lot of passengers either. It was just a simplistic wooden, obviously it was a branch line. So the Wath Spur did actually have passenger traffic on it. Now, probably would have been a very sparse service, but Moorhouse did have its own train station once upon a time, and this is what remains today. I mean, as if there's a grip here on copings. I mean, there's still even like a line engraved into actual copings on platform edge. When tracks used to be here and stuff, as if it's just still, you know what I mean? Mad, really, just to think it's just here, and it actually served a purpose, and now it's just overgrown and got trees growing out of it and stuff. But yeah, we're actually a working station, and it's in middle of fields. Not many people actually know it's even here, but it is. We're just walking through it now, and we can't believe how long the platform actually is. And it wasn't long after the actual spur were opened that passenger traffic actually ceased. But look how long this platform is. You know, only a station, only a village station. So that tells me, you know, when they built it, they intended it to be used a lot. Right, so we're looking at both sides of these platforms here, right, and what jumps out at you, which is it's a little bit unusual actually, it's the actual platforms are built on arches on both sides. If you look, you can point them all out here, all these arches on every one. So the actual platform is built out of arches. Now the reason why they use the arches is, one, what to save on bricks, so they didn't have to build a solid structure of bricks. Two, this station sat on a railway embankment. It's raised up off the ground. The land falls away from it from either side, and these two platforms are stood on top of the embankment. Now if the embankment were to ever to shift and move from underneath the platform, the whole platform wouldn't move with the land, because obviously it's an arched over. So if the land was ever to shift underneath from the platform would still stay true, and the platform would not collapse in with if there were ever a landslide. So that's the reason why the arches were used. Example here of why they use the arches, right? We've got a step line fracture here in platform. This is a step line fracture, and obviously the land underneath has given way over time, and it's actually ripped the platform in half. That's actually subsided away from the actual main platform, and it's created a massive step line fracture where the whole platform has actually sunk into the ground, and it's made this effect. Now the reason why these arches were built was to stop it falling anymore. If it was a solid structure on top of this railway embanking, because it's all false ground, it's all been raised up, you know, it would cause a lot more damage to the actual platform. So the step line fracture is not really that bad, but it has actually worked. The archers have actually done their job, and they've supported the actual platform. Right, so we're just outside. This is the station house for Moorhouse Station. This would have housed the station master, and it's very stereotypical of the Hull and Barnsley yet again. Most of the buildings and infrastructure, well, the buildings of the Hull and Barnsley were decored in this way. So this is a Hull and Barnsley station house, as you can see. This is Moorhouse Station House. Probably Probably the only one of buildings is actually still inhabited on the actual Hull and Barnsley are the station houses. Everything else has gone, I'm afraid to say. I'll just another thing here behind me. There used to be a bridge here. It's got dismantled. The reason why it got dismantled is because the bus couldn't get underneath it. 211 used to come up here from South Elmsall, right? And there used to be a bridge here. And what happened is Yorkshire Traction bought a load of new buses and they were taller and they couldn't get under that bus, under that bridge. So the bridge had to be collapsed so buses could get underneath it. And you know what's happened now? 211 doesn't even come down here. Right, we're just back in car, but I'm just going to make a note of weather, how much weather we've seen today. Can't believe it. We've had hailstone, we've had sun, we've had wind, we've had calmness, we've had rain, we've had warmth, cold. We've like seen about, I can't believe how many elements I've endured today doing this documentary. It's hailstoning now, but just can't believe how much weather we've seen, really, to be fair. We're going to move quick because we're running out of light. We're running out of light. We're going to get the last scene in this episode, and we're going to visit Clayton and Frickley, which is the furthest point of any infrastructure on the Wath Spur that the Wath Spur has got. Beyond Clayton and Frickley, you can't find any more infrastructure. So we're going to visit the farthest point from Wrangbrook Junction, and it is a place called Frickley Park, which is about a mile and a half away from South Elmsall, but is the farthest point from Wrangbrook Junction that you can actually find any infrastructure on the Wath Spur. Right, we've come to the last piece of infrastructure on this particular spur. After this bridge, right, we can't trace the line any further because it's been dismantled. So the line towards Fernsker, it's all been dismantled and it's all been dilapidated. This is the last piece of infrastructure that actually exists on the Wath Spur, and it's a sandstone arch bridge here at Frickley Park. Now, it's not a very stereotypical bridge, you know, in the words, it's built out of sandstone, for one. It's not built out of engineering bricks, and the reason why it was built out of sandstone, this particular bridge, was because it was an order. There was an order for this bridge to be built out of sandstone, because all the surrounding buildings in the area are built out of sandstone. So actually, Ward Oldham would have asked for this bridge to be built out of sandstone, or they won't build a bridge, simple as that. So it was built out of sandstone. It's quite an impressive structure, really, when you look at it. I mean, it really makes it's guarding the entrance to a place called Frickley Park, and obviously there's a big manor house in Frickley Park as well. And obviously this is the grounds of Frickley Park, and the railway line actually crossed it, and they had to build this impressive structure at the entrance to Frickley Park. So it's like a nice little gateway into Frickley Park, and this is it. And it's a really impressive structure, really, to be fair. And it's probably one of the few sandstone bridges you're actually going to come across on the actual Hull and Barnsley line, because most of the infrastructure you come across is built out of blue brindles and engineering bricks. So that's it, and really, that's the last piece of infrastructure on the actual Wath Spur, and there's no more infrastructure to carry on, and you can't trace this line from Wrangbrook Junction, and this is the furthest place you can actually go. So we've come to the end of our little adventure and our little exploration of the actual Hull and Barnsley line, the Wath Spur and the Sprotborough Spur, and that's about it for Disused Railway Diaries. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and yeah, that's about it, really. So I'll see you again in another Colin The Head video at some time, someplace, somewhere. Bye.